Hello, happy people, and welcome to another Delta session, this time on coherence. For this session, you will need pen and paper, and make sure that you download the handout that you can find in the description below. Coherence is the second aspect after cohesion that we need to take into consideration when we are analyzing discourse. That means any stretch of written or spoken text. Coherence isn't as easy to pin down as cohesion is. There are several aspects that we will need to investigate. That's why we're going to focus on coherence in texts. Then we are going to analyze how information is organized specifically in written discourse. Then we're going to be looking at how information is organized in functional sequences in spoken discourse. And finally, we are going to be looking at the connection between coherence and semantic and pragmatic meanings. I'm going to invite you to open your handout on page 1. There you will find 4 texts. Look at the texts and answer this question. Why don't they make sense? Ready, steady, off you go. Welcome back, happy people. So, this was text A. Why doesn't it make sense? Well done. The text appears to be cohesive, meaning that we can see instances of referencing being used, but it is not coherent because the theme of the text, the composer Mozart, is not kept throughout the text. Text B is coherent, but it lacks cohesion. There are no referencing devices being used, particularly there's a glaring lack of anaphoric referencing, which makes the text very repetitive. Then we have text C. Now, the problem here is that it doesn't meet the reader's expectation of chronological order. We are informed that Mozart died very poor at the age of 35, so it's very unlikely that 2 years later his father took him to play at concerts in the great cities of Europe. Finally, if we look at the 4th text, we can see that it doesn't follow the topic or theme throughout the text. The text begins with an exploration of the English language. However, it then moves on to talking about the Miss Universe pageant, the winner of the Miss Universe pageant, and it comes back to business deals and scientific research, which are also done in English. So we can see that the way we structure information in a text is very important in order to ensure that that text is coherent. Let's have a closer look. Here, I'm going to give you 2 texts. The information is identical in both texts. However, it is ordered in different ways. Which one of these texts is more natural to you and why? We have the blue text and the green text. Take a moment to read them and answer the question, which one is more natural and why? Well done, everyone. The answer is the text in green is more natural. Why? Because of information patterns. Let me walk you through the theory behind information patterns, particularly in written discourse. The way we order information in a text is not arbitrary. There are certain guidelines that we use in order to ensure that the text makes sense, meaning that the text is coherent. The choices that we make actually have a communicative function because it serves a particular purpose, usually related around the meaning and the message that we're trying to convey. If we look at it like this, all discourse is similar to a dialogue, and the word order in this dialogue is very important. Why? Because the structure of a clause in English is bipartite. That means the information is divided into two types. We have given information. That's the information the sender thinks the receiver already knows, also known as shared information. And new information. That's information the sender thinks the receiver does not already know. So if we look at it like this, here is a sentence from the text in green, which we agreed was the text that sounded more natural. Young Nara is given information. This text was taken from a Wikipedia article. So if we've been looking for information about young Nara, that means that at least the name is familiar to us. But what we assume is new information is the fact that she was born in Seoul in March 1981. The next sentence in our text, she is considered one of the best entertainers in South Korea. She is given information. Actually, she is an anaphoric reference to young Nara. You can see here how a cohesive device like anaphoric referencing actually helps us with referring back to given information. The new information is that she is considered one of the best entertainers in South Korea. And if you look at the rest of the text, you will see that this bipartite structure is kept throughout it. Given plus new information. If we look now at the second sentence in the blue text, people consider her one of the best entertainers in South Korea, all of a sudden, people, this is new information because this has not previously appeared in the text. So this sentence doesn't keep the same pattern of given new. It starts with new information and it continues with new information, which makes the text less coherent. Now, let's do some practice. For this activity, you will need pen and paper. Here are the instructions. I would like you to read the profile of young Nara from a website for people interested in South Korean culture. You will notice that all the sentences are active. They are in the active voice. Decide which should be active and which passive and rewrite the profile. I'd like you to keep in mind the distinction between given and new information when you are making these decisions. Here is the text. Have a look at it and decide which sentences should be in the active voice and which sentences should be in the passive voice. Ready, steady, off you go. Welcome back, happy people. I'm going to show you my answers and you get a chance to compare to what you've written. And here they are. Can you see how I've kept the given new pattern in this text? Yang is given information. Her first real success as a singer in 2001 is new information. When her is an anaphoric reference to yang, meaning that this is given information. Debut album was released. This is the new information. Copies of the album. This is given information because we've just finished talking about her album. Were sold. This is new information. She, Yang, anaphoric reference, given information, was awarded Best Singer of that year. That's new information. This is one of the uses of the passive voice. It helps us with topicalization, meaning that it helps us keep the given new pattern in our text so that it is coherent. Let's have a look now at another text. Same question. Does it make sense? Why? Why not? And here is the text. Does it make sense? Why? Why not? It might not make sense because it's taken out of context. So, here is the context. I've put it in a conversation. Does this conversation make more sense? Why? And here is the conversation. Which one of you is the fish? I order that, thanks. So why does this conversation make more sense than the previous one? We've already identified one reason. It's because it's taken out of context. But it's also because information in a spoken discourse is organized in functional sequences. Language tends to occur in predictable sequences. This makes the text more coherent and comprehensible. So, let's have a look at these 4 conversations. On your left side, you will see 4 typical conversations. On your right side, you will see the functional sequences that these conversations represent. You can also find this activity on page 4 in your handout. Your task is to match the conversations 1, 2, 3, 4 with the correct sequence. Is it an insertion sequence, a pre-sequence, an adjacency pair with a dispreferred response, or an adjacency pair with a preferred response? Write down your answers on page 4 of your handout. Welcome back, happy people. These are the answers to your task. We can see that conversation number 1 is an adjacency pair with a preferred response, whereas conversation number 2 is an adjacency pair with a dispreferred response. Conversation number 3 includes a pre-sequence. That's an adjacency pair leading to another. We usually use a pre-sequence when we want to test the waters or when we want to appear not so direct. Conversation number 4 includes an insertion sequence. Usually an insertion sequence has the purpose of delaying a response so that we have enough information to either utter a preferred response or a dispreferred response. And here is our last utterance in our session. It's hot in here. Can you identify the semantic, that's the literal meaning of the utterance above? What about the pragmatic meaning? That's what we aim to achieve by saying this utterance. Can you notice a difference? What about now? So here is a new term for you. Semantic meaning, or the literal meaning, is called locution. The semantic meaning of it's hot in here is that the temperature is high. The pragmatic meaning is called illocution. So, keeping these 2 terms in mind, what is the illocutionary force? Well, the illocutionary force of an utterance is the speaker's intention in producing that utterance. So when we say it's hot in here, that means that we intend for somebody to open the window. To practice finding the illocutionary force behind some utterances, I have a task for you. You can go on page 6 in your handout, and there you will find 10 things we say in emails and what they really mean. On your left side, we have what we say in emails. On the right side, you'll have to fill it in with what do you think we actually mean? What's the illocutionary force behind these statements? Are you ready? Welcome back, happy people. If you haven't already looked at the answers, you can find them on page 8 in your handout. Finally, on page 9, I've listed some classroom activities that focus specifically on helping students with coherence. Have a look at them and then let me know in the comments below. Which one did you like best? Thank you very much for watching, happy people, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next Delta Input session.